She slammed her hand on the desk and snapped. "You can't be here! This office is private property and you're trespassing." The whole room froze as her sharp voice echoed against the glass walls. I held the envelope tighter, my knuckles turning white. My heart raced, but I refused to step back. Everyone in that office, men in crisp suits, women with files in their hands, even the security guard near the door, stared at me like I had just committed a crime. But I hadn't. I was only here to deliver a document that legally belonged to me and my family. She jabbed her finger at my chest, her eyes burning with entitlement. "Leave now or I'll call the cops and have you dragged out like a criminal," she hissed. My jaw tightened, but inside I kept calm. They didn't know who I really was, or what proof I carried inside that single envelope. I could feel their judgment, the whispers starting behind me. To them, I was just some ordinary guy standing against a powerful woman. But I knew the truth, and soon they were all going to see it. I took a slow breath and muttered just loud enough for her to hear. "You picked the wrong man to humiliate today." Her smirk faltered for the first time. Her face tightened, but she quickly masked it with another cold smile. "Security!" she barked, and two uniformed guards moved closer, their shoes echoing on the polished floor. The other employees leaned back, pretending not to watch, but their eyes followed every step. I didn't flinch. Instead, I slowly opened the envelope, sliding out the papers like a weapon she never expected. "Before you embarrass yourself further," I said, my voice steady, "you should read this." I laid the document on the glass desk between us. She didn't even glance at it, just scoffed and shoved it aside. "Fake paperwork. Do you think I don't know your type? You people try to cheat your way into things you don't deserve." The way she spat those words made my blood boil, but I stayed calm. The guards were only a foot away now, ready to grab me. The tension in the room was so heavy you could hear a pin drop. Then I spoke again, lower this time, with just enough bite. "You might want to be careful what you call fake. That's a federal property deed with my name on it." Her smirk cracked. One of the guards hesitated, glancing down at the paper. The whispering started again, sharper this time. Curious murmurs circling the office. For the first time, she looked uncertain, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "Even if it is real," she sneered, "I'll make sure you never use it." And that was the moment I realized she was hiding something big. Her last words hung in the air like poison. The guards froze, unsure if they should still touch me, and the employees kept sneaking nervous glances between us. I leaned forward just a little, enough to let her know I wasn't afraid. "Strange thing to say," I whispered, "considering you're not the owner, and you've got no authority here." Her cheeks flushed red. She slapped the table so hard a coffee mug rattled, spilling over important files. "I am the authority here. This is my office, my rules," she shouted, her voice breaking slightly at the end. That crack in her tone gave her away. She was bluffing. I kept my eyes locked on hers, calm and steady, and slowly pulled out my phone. "Let's test that," I said, scrolling quickly before pressing play. The room filled with her own voice, recorded from just 2 nights ago. Her words were crystal clear. "I don't care who really owns this building. Once we push them out, no one will know the truth." Gasps rippled across the office. She froze like a deer caught in headlights, and even the guards stepped back, suddenly unsure whose side they were on. Her mask of arrogance slipped, revealing the fear underneath. She lunged for my phone, but I snatched it back before her fingers could touch it. "You can scream all you want," I said quietly, "but your lies are already louder than you are." That was when her confidence cracked completely, and the whole office knew it. The silence after my words was suffocating, broken only by the hum of the air conditioner. She straightened her blazer, forcing a laugh that didn't sound natural. "You think some cheap recording will scare me? I'll have real officers here in minutes, and they'll drag you out in handcuffs." She whipped out her phone and started dialing with shaky fingers, but her eyes stayed locked on mine like she was daring me to blink. I didn't. Instead, I lifted my phone again and tapped the screen. "Funny," I said calmly, "because I already sent this file to the county office this morning. They've been waiting for me to walk in here just to see how far you'd go." A ripple of shock spread across the crowd. The guards exchanged uneasy looks, shifting from one foot to another. She froze mid-dial, her hand trembling slightly. "You're bluffing," she whispered. But there was no conviction behind her words anymore. That was when a new sound cut through the tension. an elevator bell dinging down the hall. Every head turned as the glass doors slid open. Two uniformed officers stepped out, their badges glinting under the office lights. The employees gasped, whispering louder now, some stepping back to make space. Her smirk tried to return, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her. "Finally," she muttered, "real authority." But when the officer's eyes locked on me and one of them nodded in recognition, her confidence shattered into panic. She straightened her shoulders as the officers walked closer, trying to act like she had summoned them herself. "Arrest this man," she ordered quickly, pointing at me with shaking fingers. "He's trespassing and threatening me." Her voice cracked at the end, but she forced a smile as if she was still in control. The entire office waited breathless for the officer's response. One of them, a tall man with a calm but firm expression, glanced at me before pulling a small folder from his jacket. "Ma'am," he said flatly, "we're not here for him." The room went dead silent. Her face drained of color. What do you mean?" she stammered. The officer laid the folder on the desk and flipped it open. Inside were photographs, documents, and a signed warrant. "We've received multiple complaints," he continued, "about forged HOA notices, illegal threats, and impersonating county officials. All of them lead back to you." Gasps echoed across the office. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She tried to laugh it off, but it sounded desperate. "This is a mistake. I run this place." "They're lying," she screamed, but her voice only fueled the murmurs spreading through the crowd. I folded my arms, finally letting a small smile touch my lips. For weeks, she had terrorized families, pretending to have power she didn't. And now, her own lies were stacked against her. "Guess your rules don't matter anymore," I said softly, watching her crumble. Her hands shook as she slammed the folder shut, scattering the documents across the floor. "No, you can't do this to me," she screamed, her voice echoing through the office like a wild animal caught in a trap. The officer stepped forward, but she suddenly darted toward me, her finger stabbing the air. "This is your fault. You set me up." Her face twisted with rage, and for a second I thought she might actually lunge. The guards hesitated, frozen between obeying her or the real cops. That confusion gave her a split second of hope, and she snatched my phone from the desk, holding it up like she'd just captured a weapon. "See? He's been recording everyone." "This is harassment," she shouted, but the panic in her voice betrayed her. I didn't move. Instead, I looked directly at the officers and said calmly, "Check the backup file I sent to the department this morning." Her grip on the phone faltered, the color draining from her face. One officer nodded, already pulling out his own device to confirm. Within seconds. The truth was undeniable. The evidence was out there, untouchable. She let out a choked cry, her power finally slipping away. The employees who once feared her now whispered openly, some even smiling at her downfall. For the first time, she looked small, cornered, and desperate. But I knew she wasn't done yet. People like her never go down without one last reckless move. She clutched my phone tighter, her eyes darting around like a trapped predator searching for an escape. The officers moved closer, but she suddenly shoved the desk forward, sending papers and a coffee mug crashing to the ground. Gasps filled the room as she bolted toward the glass doors, her heels clattering against the floor. "You'll regret this. All of you!" she shrieked, waving my phone like it was a trophy. For a moment, chaos spread, employees scrambling out of her way, security frozen in shock. But I didn't chase her. Instead, I reached into my jacket and calmly pulled out a second phone. "That one's just a copy," I said loud enough for the whole office to hear. The whispers turned into laughter, nervous at first, then relieved. She spun around, her face pale, realizing she had just exposed herself further. The officers closed in, their hands firm on their cuffs. "Karen Smith," one of them announced, his voice cutting through the noise. "You are under arrest for fraud, harassment, and impersonation of officials." She fought wildly, screaming and kicking, but the sound of metal cuffs locking around her wrists silenced the room. The employees stood frozen, watching the woman who once terrified them drag toward the elevator. Some even started clapping softly, their fear finally broken. I stayed where I was, my second phone still glowing in my hand, proof that every step of her downfall had been carefully prepared. Justice wasn't just coming, it was already here. The elevator doors closed behind her. the sound of the cuffs still echoing in everyone's ears. For the first time in months, the office felt lighter, as if a storm had finally passed. People began to murmur, some shaking my hand, others simply nodding in quiet gratitude. I slipped the deed back into my envelope and looked around at the faces. Faces that had been ruled by fear but were now free. One of the officers stopped beside me and said, "You handled that better than most. We've been waiting a long time for someone to finally stand up to her." I gave a small nod, my voice steady but low. I didn't serve this country just to watch bullies tear it apart. Property, freedom, family, those things matter, and no one has the right to take them away. The words hung heavy in the air, striking deeper than I expected. Some of the employees lowered their heads. Others smiled faintly, but all of them understood. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for the principle that no false authority could ever outweigh the truth. As I walked out of the glass doors, the afternoon sun hit my face, warm and steady. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace. Justice had won. And deep down, I knew one thing for sure. People like her might rise up again. But there would always be someone ready to stop them. Because freedom isn't just a word. It's worth standing for.